Make a comprehensive financial analysis report on the 5 largest companies on NASDAQ. Oh my god. I am speechless. This is seriously shocking. Alright, what about this? Track the social media activity, posts, engagement, mentions of the top 5 Twitch streamers and visualize trends. No freaking way. Oh my goodness. Serious question. Why would I even hire a human anymore? Look how comprehensive this is. Okay, what about this? Make a travel plan to Singapore for June 24th to 29th, which I can share with friends. Include all of this information. You've got to be kidding me. This is mind-blowing. What about this? Give me the name, phone, and contact email of the top 20 accountants in San Jose, California. Holy smokes! This is unreal, man. Look at the amount of detail it was able to pull up. What about this? Create a short visual storybook for kids. Oh my gosh, it actually pulled it off, and the characters and the scenes look consistent. This has got to be the most impressive AI agent I've used yet. It's even better than Manus, and yes, you can try it for free right now. So it's called Genspark, and in a nutshell, this is basically an all-in-one platform where you can use all the top image models out there as well as all the top video generators out there. Plus, it has a deep research capability, which is similar to OpenAI's deep research as well as Google's deep research. And then they also have a bunch of other agents like this, such as data search and translation. But the real game changer is this latest agent that they released called Superagent. And this basically takes your task and autonomously decides which agents to use to fulfill the task for you. You'll see what I mean once I get into some demos. Now, at first, upon hearing this, you might say, well, this is just a framework. They haven't built any models themselves. How good can this actually be? Well, let's test this out right now. And for your information, no, this video is not sponsored by them. I genuinely think this is a super powerful tool. So with that, let's jump right in. It's really easy to use. You just need to click Superagent up here. And then let's try this prompt. Analyze US state-level adoption of renewable energy over the past 5 years. Include charts and infographics. Format in a nice aesthetic report which I can share. So this is a key phrase I like to use a lot to make the report more visual. And then this is also another key phrase I like to use. So if it's not just a document of text, it's actually formatted nicely, as you'll see in a second. So let's click generate and see what that gives us. Alright, so each prompt does take at least a few minutes to run because it is using a team of agents to do multiple steps for you. So let's look at its process. First, it's gathering information about renewable energy adoption. So if I expand this, you can see that it's searching the web and finding all these web pages and then scraping each one to find information it needs. And then it's scraping this page to get more information about solar energy growth trends by state. All right, and then next it's moving on to wind energy. So it's scraping this page. And then next, it's getting information about renewable energy portfolio standards by state, which looks something like this. Right now, it's just simple text and data tables. It's going to synthesize and process all this information afterwards, as you'll see in a second. And then next, it's gathering information about renewable energy policy. Next, it's also getting some data on the economic impact of renewable energy. And then it's even finding information on clean energy jobs. So based on all this information, it's now using Python to create interactive visualizations. So it's running this Python script, but oopsies, here it says the code did not execute successfully, so it ran into some error. So then it says, let's simplify the code further to ensure it works. It goes back and forth trying to troubleshoot and fix the errors and trying different methods, and eventually it does get a working method. And then as you can see here, this is the code output, and oh my gosh, it looks very nice already. And then next, once we have the visualizations, it proceeds to create an HTML report in a well-structured, visually appealing format. Let's click on this, and here we go. Here is our report. Let me expand this HTML file in a new window so you can view it full screen. Here is our nicely formatted web page. Here we have an executive summary, we have key highlights, we have some key findings with some key metrics here. Here we have solar energy adoption across the states. Notice how much information it has here. It needs to find this info for all the states in the US, plus plot this out in a nice bar graph like this. And then here are some key insights. California maintains its leadership position with X amount of gigawatt hours. And then it also gives us some emerging trends. So that's solar energy. Next, we move on to wind energy adoption. Again, we have the same chart. So here it says Texas dominates the wind energy landscape. Iowa and South Dakota generate more than half of their electricity from wind power, etc., etc. And look at that. It even plots renewable energy growth trends across the 5 years. And it even breaks this down into solar versus wind energy versus total renewables. And then here are the growth drivers and trends. It even lists some challenges to continued growth. And then next we have state leadership in renewable adoption. So here's the percentage of electricity from renewables. Props to Iowa for leading with 65%. Here are some more stats. And then next we have state renewable energy policies. And look at that. For each state, it even lists out the policy type and the target year. So for example, for Rhode Island, they're planning to have 100% renewable energy by 2033. For Connecticut, they're planning to have 100% carbon-free electricity by 2040, etc., etc. So this is insanely comprehensive. And then here are some policy trends and developments, and so on and so forth. And then we even have economic impact and job creation. So here is the number of clean energy jobs by state. Here it lists some further noteworthy stats in terms of economic impact and job market. It even found some information on like job quality and diversity. And then here are some future outlook and challenges. Here are some key forecasts and projections, critical challenges. Oh my God, this is just so comprehensive. The amount of detail and information it pulled and synthesized into this one report is just so impressive. Before, if you wanted to hire an assistant to actually find and compile all this information, it would take them at least days, if not weeks. But Genspark just handled it within minutes. Notice that I just told it to analyze US adoption of renewable energy over the past 5 years. It didn't have to break it down into solar and wind and other renewables. It didn't also have to search for state leadership in renewable adoption. It didn't also have to search for energy policies, nor did it have to search for economic impact and job creation. But it decided to add all of this information together. This is insanely useful. All right, next, let's try this. Track the social media activity, including posts, engagement, and mentions, of the top 5 Twitch streamers and visualize trends. Format into a nice report which I can share. Again, this is a key phrase I like to use to make sure it outputs it in a PDF or a web page, which is formatted nicely. So let's click generate and see what that gives us. All right, so after a few minutes, it has finally finished. It starts by finding the top Twitch streamers. So it's searching for top 5 Twitch streamers 2025, and it found all these links. And then next, it's gathering more information about these top streamers and their social presence. So it's viewing the social media of all these accounts. And then after it has gathered information on the top Twitch streamers, it then proceeds to create a Python script to visualize the trends and engagement metrics. So it's executing this Python code, and look at how comprehensive this is. Holy smokes, it has data for each account across all these platforms, and then even more charts for you, which I'll show you in a second. And then afterwards, it looks like it didn't run into any errors this time running the Python code. So then it proceeds to create an HTML to present this data in a professional shareable format. So here, if I click view, here is the website. But in addition to this, it also gave me a PDF which I can download. So the PDF looks like this. Holy smokes, this is insane. All right, well, let's view the web page first. So I'm going to click on this and then click on this to expand it in a new window. All right, so we have table of contents, executive summary. We also have a nice fixed header over here so we can jump to different sections. So here's the executive summary. Here are the top 5 streamers, and then here are the performance of all of them. Here are some key findings, and then here are some streamer overviews. So here is their social media presence across all these different accounts. That it was able to scrape all of this information by itself. And then here's the social media analysis. Here are the total number of posts by each streamer across all these platforms year to date. So this includes Instagram, TikTok, Twitch, etc. This is so comprehensive. And then it doesn't just give you this chart, it also analyzes the data and gives you some key observations. And then next, it also looks at engagement rate per platform per streamer, as you can see here. This is crazy. And then again, it gives you some key observations from that. And then we have weekly posting frequency year to date. And here's the trend per streamer. And then here's the cumulative follower growth across all platforms. And then here's the platform distribution per streamer. So it breaks everything down into these nice looking pie charts. And then again, it gives us some key observations about this data. And here it even breaks down the engagement by percentage of likes, comments, and shares. This is so impressive. And then here's weekly engagement rate across time, across these 5 accounts. Oh my God, what do we have here? So this is a content distribution heat map. So it seems like this guy is posting the most across all these platforms. This is some insane level of detail. And then here's a performance summary. Here's a nice data table showing all the posts, impressions, engagement, followers, average engagement rate, and engagement per post across all 5 streamers year to date. Absolute madness. And then finally, here are some key insights and trends. And these are indeed really insightful. So here are some platform-specific success factors. It found that for TikTok, short, high-energy clips under 30 seconds generate 42% higher engagement than longer content. And then for Instagram, visual aesthetic boosts engagement by up to 35%. For Twitter, timely commentary on trending topics increases engagement by 67% compared to generic updates. For YouTube, content series and recurring formats generate 28% higher subscriber conversion than one-off videos. That's crazy, the amount of quantitative detail it's able to give us. And then here's some other tips on content strategy effectiveness. Here it found that diversified content generates 23% more engagement than specialized content approaches. Collaboration content averages 54% higher reach than solo content. Behind the scenes and personal content generates 1.7 times higher comment rates. Oh my God. All of this is just so insightful. Here we also have like audience engagement patterns. So here it says time of day significantly impacts engagement with 6 to 9 p.m. posts receiving 47% higher engagement. And that's why I publish my videos at 7:30. Wink, wink. Direct calls to action increase comment rates by 86%. Oh my God, this is crazy. I shouldn't be sharing this with you. This is like my secret sauce to growing on YouTube. And then here we have emerging trends, critical success factors, and then strategic recommendations. This is just absolutely insane. It even prioritizes each strategy based on the impact potential and the implementation complexity. Oh man. Like, I am just shocked right now at how comprehensive this is. And by the way, we're not even done yet. So this is just the web page. Remember, it also gave us a PDF, which looks like this. So if we expand this, here's like a slide format. So here's the first page. Here's the second slide. Look how nicely everything is formatted. And here are the streamer profiles with some really beautiful icons. This one has the top engagement. This one has the most hours. And this looks beautiful. And then here are the posts by platform with key insights. This is insane. Here's engagement rate comparison. Oh my God. I mean, this is seriously the most impressive AI tool I've used so far. Look at how meticulous and in-depth the information is. Here's the post by day of week with some key insights, platform distribution. It even has all the appropriate icons, engagement breakdown, content distribution heat map. That's crazy. So it even breaks down, the content type for each streamer, including gaming highlights behind the scenes, reactions, challenges, commentary, and collaborations. And then it's color-coded to show how each type of video boosts the engagement relative to the average engagement rate of the streamer. Oh my God, man. This is just so insightful. And then here's a performance summary with engagement rate, growth trends, even content strength with a 5-star rating system. And then here are some key recommendations and conclusion. I am just so mind blown right now. Imagine if you hired, a marketing analyst or an intern to do this. Again, it would take them days or weeks to compile all this information. There's probably going to be a lot of back and forth, and even after they compiled the report, it's probably not going to be as detailed as this. If you're like a social media coordinator or marketing analyst, I would really start to be worried about my job if I were you. Thanks to Noda for sponsoring this video. Noda is a super useful AI note-taker. It can automatically transcribe, summarize, and organize spoken content into actionable text. Whether it's business meetings, lectures, or casual discussions, Noda ensures that no important detail is lost. You can focus on meaningful discussions without the distraction of manual note-taking. With support for platforms like Zoom, Google Meet, Teams, and WebEx, you can seamlessly integrate Noda into your workflow. You can summarize meetings in real time or transcribe any audio or video. Plus, you can summarize meetings with just one click to easily extract key points and action items from the call. Did you forget about something that was mentioned last month? No worries, because you can just search using the Noda AI chat. This is also perfect for consultants, sales reps, and customer support. For consultants, you can effortlessly document client meetings and streamline follow-ups. Sales professionals can use it to track customer interactions, extract key insights, and refine their pitches. It's also great for students who can use Noda to record, transcribe, and summarize lectures. Noda is a must-have tool for anyone looking to boost productivity and organization. Try it for free via the link in the description below. Alright, let's try this. Make an interactive course on high school physics. Include educational visualizations or animations. This is another key phrase I like to use to make it more interactive and visual. And then just give me one module with 3 lessons for now, just to make sure it doesn't use up all my credits, and then put everything in a shareable web page. Let's click generate and see what that gives us. Alright, so before proceeding, it actually wanted to confirm, would you like to focus on a specific topic, like mechanics, electricity, waves, etc., or would you prefer that I choose? So I like how it doesn't just start blurting out an answer, but it actually asks some clarification questions to make sure it's handling the task appropriately. So I just wrote, you can choose whatever you want. So next, it starts creating a high school physics module focused on mechanics. So first, it's creating the web page, and that's pretty much it. This is a pretty short prompt. Here are the 3 lessons, and then you can access the full interactive course over here. So let's click on this. So here is Newton's laws of motion. So first law, if you apply force to it, it keeps moving at the same speed in the same direction unless acted upon by another force. So if I click apply force, indeed, the ball just keeps moving and moving and moving. And then next, here is Newton's second law. So here's where we can adjust these settings. If we apply force like this, here's what happens. So it's pretty fast. And then if you decrease the force, and then you click apply force, then it's a bit slower, as you can see here. Or if you increase the force and decrease the mass, then it's going to be super fast, as you can see here. Very nice. So this whole animation works beautifully. And this does illustrate Newton's second law. And then here's Newton's third law, which is what happens during a collision. So when 2 objects collide, they exert equal and opposite forces. So let's try this out. Very nice. And then it even gives us a nice quiz. So let me just randomly answer some questions and see if I got it correct. That's crazy. Even just from randomly clicking, I got 2 out of 3 correct. All right, so let's move on to the next lesson. Work, energy, and power. I don't even know what this is. Let's just click push object and the box moves like this. And then here it goes over kinetic energy with the formula, and then potential energy with that formula. And then let's click drop ball, and you can see both the potential and kinetic energy change as the ball drops and bounces on the floor. And then here is power. So let's click calculate power. So the power is just force times velocity, it seems like. So it's 500 watts. Here are some real world examples. And here's another quiz. All right. And then finally, lesson 3, momentum and collisions. Here is the formula. Let's calculate momentum. So it's just mass times velocity, which is this. And then here is the conservation of momentum with another interactive animation. And then we have types of collisions. All right, let's play around with this. So here's an elastic collision. Okay. And then here's an inelastic collision. Interesting. Here's perfectly inelastic. oh my god, what just happened? And then here's a quiz. So in just like a couple of minutes, this AI was able to create an interactive educational web page teaching like half a semester of high school physics. This is going to completely transform education. Now anyone can just create any educational resource for any topic for the kids or for themselves to learn. If you're a teacher or tutor or you own a tutoring center, I would start to be really worried if I were you. Alright, next let's try this. Create a short visual storybook for kids. Make it in anime style. Make it less than 10 pages, put into a PDF. And note that because this is an all-in-one platform, it includes access to the best image and video generators out there. If I tell it to create a visual storybook, I'm hoping that it does use the image agent to create panels for the storybook. Let's see if it can handle this. Alright, so again, before just blurting out an answer, it asks some clarifying questions like what should the story be about? What age group is this for? Any specific anime style preferences? So I just replied for early elementary, it should be about a moral lesson. You can decide everything else, such as the characters, theme, etc. And then next it proceeds to create the storybook. So indeed, it does use an image generation tool, and it seems like it is using Recraft to create these two images of a young girl with short brown hair and a little white cat in a forest, I assume. I can't really expand this to read the prompt further. And then next, it's going to generate a few more images for the story, and then it continues to generate these panels, and then here it's generating the title page with the text Mika and Snowball. Very nice. And then here's another image generation. So now that I've generated all the images, I'll create the PDF with a complete story. So here's the web page, and the PDF is over here. So let's click on the PDF, and here's what we get. So it's Mika and Snowball, the courage to share, a story about friendship and sharing. So once upon a time, there was a little girl named Mika. She had a fluffy white cat named Snowball, etc., etc. But oh no, she didn't have any friends her own age. Mika was too shy to talk to them. Every day after school, Mika would sit alone in the park with Snowball. I wish I could play with them, Mika whispered to Snowball, who purred softly as if to say, why don't you try? But Mika was afraid. What if they don't like me? What if they don't want to play with me? She wondered. That night, Mika had a wonderful dream. She was playing with all the children from the park, so when she woke up, she felt a warm feeling. Today will be different. Today, I'm going to be brave. So at the park, Mika approached some children and she's like, hello, would you like to play with some of my toys? I have enough to share with everyone. Sure, said a girl with pigtails, that would be fun, etc., etc. And then they proceed to play, and then it's a happy ending. And then here it says, sometimes being brave means sharing what you have with others, and sharing is often the beginning of beautiful friendships. Aww. Anyways, you can see with this AI, it's now ridiculously easy for anyone to create an entire illustrated storybook in a matter of minutes, just with a single prompt. And it doesn't have to be storybooks. You can create like cookbooks or recipe books. I mean, this is gonna totally disrupt books and the publishing industry. Alright, next, let's try this. Make a comprehensive financial analysis report on the 5 largest companies on NASDAQ. Include graphs and infographics. Format in a nice aesthetic report which I can share with colleagues. Let's see if it can handle this. Alright, so first it proceeds with identifying the 5 largest companies on NASDAQ by market cap. Based on the results, it identified these companies. Then it's doing a parallel search to find the financial information for each one. So it's using like multiple agents simultaneously to view the financial information for all 5 companies at once. And then afterwards, it's collecting more specific financial data for each company, including quarterly reports, revenue, profit margins, and other key financial metrics. So afterwards, it's using Python to create visualizations. So here are some graphs, which I'll show you in a second in the final report. But it's super comprehensive, as you can see here. There are a ton of graphs, and then it's using Python to create even more graphs, and then it has created a web page plus a set of slides for presentation purposes. How cool is that? Let me just scroll to the bottom first and see if there's anything else missing. I think that's it. So here is the full HTML report. Here are the slides. Let's go over the HTML first. So here indeed we have a financial analysis report of these 5 companies. Here's an executive summary with key highlights. Here's the market cap analysis, which looks like this, and it's very nicely formatted. It had some issues pulling the logo from Nvidia and Microsoft, but this is like a minor thing. And then annual revenue comparison over the past 3 years. This is what we get. Quarterly revenue trends, and then here is year-on-year revenue growth. By the way, look at Nvidia's growth. That is just crazy. And then here is the operating margin for all 5 companies. Here's the net income comparison. Here's the research and development spending for all 5 companies. And then here's a nice data table with additional financial metrics. And then here's the stock performance analysis. Here's the 30-day trend. And yes, it's been a total bloodbath for tech companies in the past few months. And then here are some other key metrics. This is so interesting. It even decided to do a cloud segment analyst. So for the companies that offer cloud services, such as Amazon, Microsoft, and Google, it also looked at the year-over-year growth rates for the revenue of these cloud services. That's crazy. And then here are some key insights. And then next, it even decided to look at AI investments and strategic focus. Here's the projected capital expenditure for all 5 companies. Here's the AI strategic focus. This is so impressive. So here it says Google forecast to spend $75 billion to invest in Gemini models, AI infrastructure, search AI, and cloud AI. And then Amazon, indeed, it has Bedrock, AWS AI services, and Trainium chips, as well as Gen AI, etc., etc. The amount of detail here is just insane. And then here it's listing out each company's strategy. And then here is future outlook and risks. And then here are some industry trends to watch for. And here we have a conclusion. This AI is just so cracked, man, how it's able to compile so much data into a nice report in a matter of minutes. Next, let's look at the presentation slides as well. All right, so it looks like this. Here is slide 1. Here is slide 2 with market cap, with some nice visualizations and key market insights. Here is slide 3 with revenue analysis and quarterly trends. And then here's profitability metrics. There's a ton of data in each of these slides. This is just so comprehensive. And then here's stock performance with, again, a ton of data. And then here's cloud segment analysis. This is basically repeating the same information from the HTML page, but it's just formatted nicely to fit in this slide format. And then here's R&D with, again, a ton of data. And then here's future outlook and growth projections across all 5 companies, key takeaways and investment outlook plus conclusion. Holy smokes. So here's the thing. You would either pay a financial analyst to do this, and you probably need to pay them like at least $100,000 a year. Plus, it would take them days or weeks to do this. And it might not even be as detailed or as visually aesthetic as what you see here. So you can either do that, or you can just prompt this AI and it would spit out everything in a matter of minutes. I think the choice is pretty clear. I mean, if you're a junior financial analyst, I would start to be super worried about my job if I were you. Next, let's try this. Find the name, phone, and contact email of the top 20 accountants in San Jose, California. In theory, I could get this to scrape hundreds of leads, but just to show you a quick example, without burning all my credits, let's keep it to just 20 accountants for now, and then put everything in a nice shareable report. Let's click generate and see what that gives us. Alright, so this was relatively short. Let's see what we get. It seems to be going to all these websites to gather information, and then it's using parallel search, so it's using multiple agents simultaneously to go onto each accounting firm's website and scraping for more details like their phone number and email. It's using this agent to create a web page that houses all the information. So afterwards, here's the complete report. And this looks so nice already. Let's scroll down, and here indeed we have 20 accountants in San Jose, California, with the phone number and email and address and primary focus. Oh my gosh, I didn't even specify for the address or primary focus, but it just gave me all of this information anyways. And then Wow, here's the detailed firm information for each one, including their services and a description. This is crazy. All right, now here's something even crazier. Let's see if this works. I'm going to try to call the first 3 accounting firms in this database. Now, before I do that, I actually need to activate the call agent function. So I will go to all agents, and then here for call for me, when I run this the first time, I actually need to set this up. So let me click next, and then I need to enter in a phone number to receive SMS verification. So let me do that real quick. All right, next we need to select a voice assistant. Let's see what Finn sounds like.
Hello, I'm ready to help you connect with any business you need.
All right, here's Ryan.
Hi there. I'm your personal calling assistant, ready to reach out to any business on your behalf.
Here's Sophia.
Hello, I can handle your business calls while you focus on other things.
All right, Ryan's pretty good. Now, what should we name this assistant? Let's call this James, and then click next. All right, so we're all set. It's going to do a test call to my phone first. After it has successfully called your number, if you click on task again for this call for me agent, you should see that it's now connected and you can call any business in US, Canada, or Japan. So anyways, let's go back to our thread scraping all these accountants in San Jose, and I'm gonna write, using the call agent for the top 3 rows, call the number and ask the following. What services do you provide? How much do you charge? What's your experience with clients like me? I'm a tech solopreneur. After calling, summarize their answer in a nice shareable report. Let's click generate and see what that gives us. Now, it doesn't call all of them immediately. It looks like I need to manually click on AI Call For Me button, so let's just try the first one and see what happens. And then for purpose of the call, I'm just going to paste in my 3 questions here. All right, let's see if this works. So while this is calling this phone, I'm going to click the second button to make a call. I'm going to paste in the same questions and then press phone call. And then I'm going to do the same with the third accountant. So I'm going to press this and then paste in my questions and then press phone call. I should have 3 agents calling these 3 accounting firms simultaneously, as you can see up here. All right, so it looks like this one is finished. Let's see how that went. So here's the call information. Here's its thinking process. This is so interesting. So it says their business hours indicate they're open right now, which aligns well with our timing. We want to approach this with a professional tone. And given you're a tech solopreneur, it might be beneficial to mention your specific needs related to the field. We should be cautious about the details we provide and ensure we don't overshare any sensitive information. No significant red flags jump out at me, but we should remain attentive during the conversation. Just maintain a friendly and straightforward approach to encourage an open dialogue. It's thinking so much just for a phone call, which is kind of cute. Anyways, here is the transcript, and in fact, if I scroll down, it actually records the entire call too. So let me just play this while showing you the transcript.
Hi, you have reached the phone of CPA. If you are calling for accounting or tax services, please fill out an inquiry on our website. This inquiry form will take you directly to a link on our calendar where you can book an introductory meeting with our team, and we will be able to help you from there. Thank you.
Thank you for the information. Goodbye.
So the last sentence was from our AI assistant. Unfortunately, they didn't even have a real person responding. So let's move on to the next accountant. All right, next one here is PP & Co. And then I'm just going to scroll down and play you the audio recording and then show you the transcript.
Good morning, PP & Co.
Could you please tell me about your accounting services?
So obviously this AI agent sounds super robotic and the human could tell, and that person just hung up without even responding. Obviously not a really good person for customer support. You know, eventually we're going to get a ton of these AI agents working on our behalf, so even if the voice sounds robotic, you should at least put some effort in answering the response. So anyways, that is P&P Co. And here's our call with Kuran and Associates. So it has a really long thinking process, and then it starts the call. Here's the full transcript. Let me play the audio clip for you while we read through the transcript.
Thank you for calling Curran and Associates, CPA.
So it goes ahead and presses 1.
Transferring your call to services.
Thank you for calling Curran and Associates. This is Amanda. How can I help you?
Could you assist with some information on your services?
Oh my gosh, she hung up on us again. This is ridiculous. The attitude of some of these people. I mean, this is clear discrimination against AI. Anyways, you can see the call agent is not great because the voice sounds too robotic, so most people just don't even bother answering, which is unfortunate. But going back to this table, Genspark is incredibly powerful at scraping leads and finding information about any type of business or customer you want to target. So, I mean, if you're working in sales or prospecting, I would start to slightly be worried about your job if I were you. Alright, now throughout my videos, I try to show you some actually useful applications of these AI tools that you would use in real life. So this is a prompt that I hope none of you actually need to use, but for some of you out there who do need to seek medical advice for a very concerning or fatal or rare disease, Genspark might be the best option out there. So here's the prompt. Let's say the patient has Alexander disease. This is quite a rare and potentially fatal disease with not a lot of information out there. He is 2 years old. Research everything about the subject and suggest next steps or possible ideas for cures. Compile everything into a visually appealing comprehensive report with charts and graphs. Let's see if it can pull it off. Alright, so it's using this Scholar Search tool to search for all the information it can find about Alexander disease. And because we specified that the patient is 2 years old, it's specifically looking for information for children, including diagnosis, treatment approaches, clinical trials. It's scraping for more information now. It's also getting information about a current trial, apparently. Also looking for other approaches like gene therapy. Okay, so this is super in-depth. It's like an army of researchers finding information on your behalf. And then afterwards, it has gathered all the information. It's using this Python tool to basically graph everything out for you. So here are some charts, and then afterwards it's using this tool to create a comprehensive web page that houses everything. So let's click view, which would look like this. Let's just open up this web page in a new window so we can view it full screen. And here's a comprehensive report of Alexander disease for the patient who is 2 years old. So here's the table of contents. You can see executive summary with key facts, and then disease background and epidemiology. So this is classified as an ultra rare disease. And then here is a very important chart showing Alexander disease types, including the prevalence, severity, and life expectancy. And it breaks this down into different age classes. So here's infantile, juvenile, and adult. Afterwards, it also gives us a really nice data table showing the different types of Alexander disease based on the age of onset. And it also gives us key characteristics and typical prognosis. Then it even talks about the genetics of this disease. So here's the gene structure and common mutation sites of this disease. Look how in-depth this is. And then here's the inheritance pattern. It follows an autosomal dominant pattern of inheritance, etc., etc. I mean, this is just super technical and in-depth stuff. And then here's a chart showing the distribution of these mutations in Alexander disease. And then here is some more information. And then here's even the pathophysiology. Holy smokes! And then here it talks more about what's happening. Again, look at all the insane technical details it has pulled up. Like, it is literally going through the scientific literature, the primary sources of information, and getting all of this. It's not just from some generic medical blog, which has very shallow information. And then here are some clinical manifestations. So here it's graphing out the symptoms. So you can have macrocephaly, seizures, developmental delay, etc., etc. And it's breaking this down by different types of Alexander disease based on age. Here's diagnosis. So here are some ways to diagnose it. So we have neuroimaging, genetic testing, lab studies, differential diagnosis, current treatment approaches. Currently, there's no cure or disease-modifying treatment approved for Alexander disease. Here is a chart showing all these different therapies and at what development stage they are in terms of basic research only or preclinical or early clinical trials, late clinical trials, or standard of care. And then here it's graphing this in terms of the efficacy of the treatment. This is such a useful chart. And then here we have multidisciplinary care. Here we have symptomatic management. For every symptom, what are the best approaches to manage this? We also have emerging approaches such as this. And then we have a ton of additional technical information. And then we have this section on future directions, which I'm just going to scroll through quickly so you can see what type of information it can output for you. And then resources for families. Here it's citing all these different websites and organizations which offer support for families in need. Here are some additional educational resources. And then finally, it outputs the references over here. So an insanely thorough and technical and detailed report. This is seriously a mind-blowing moment for me. I have not seen an AI compile a report that is so technical and thorough. I mean, think about this. If you're a parent and unfortunately you have a kid or relative who has this disease, note that probably none of the doctors or medical professionals in your area have any knowledge about this disease. So think of how hopeless or helpless or lost you would be. Like, you have no expert to turn to or even give you some guidance or information on what to do or what this disease is or how to treat the kid. But you can basically get this AI to do all the research for you, and look at how comprehensive this report is. After reading this report and digesting everything, I mean, you could become one of the most knowledgeable experts on the subject in the world. Definitely better than most doctors in my neighborhood, I can tell you that. Alright, next, let's try this. Make a visually appealing Singapore itinerary for June 24th to 29 with high quality images and daily maps. Include up to 3 attractions per day, easy transportation without self-driving, a mix of nature and cultural experiences, minimal walking, and reservations at top seafood restaurants. Format in a nice aesthetic layout which I can share with friends. Let's click generate and see what that gives us. Alright, so first it proceeds with searching for information about Singapore, and then here are all the cool destinations and blogs and articles it has found, and then afterwards it starts compiling all of this information, and then here it's also searching for images to add to our report to make it more visually appealing. And then it's even using another agent which searches Google Maps, I assume, for the best seafood restaurants. And here's why. At the beginning of the video, I said this is just a wrapper of many agents using different models or tools, and this might not seem like much, right? They're not OpenAI or DeepSeek. They're not at the forefront of creating the most intelligent language models out there, but Genspark has developed a super efficient and useful framework combining all these agents together using all these different tools, and this can create some super comprehensive and detailed reports for you. It's like having an entire team of employees working on your behalf. Anyways, here it's using another map tool to look up transportation information, and then it's using this web page tool to create the web page for us so we can share with our friends. And that's pretty much it. So if we click on this, and then let me expand this, here is our Singapore itinerary. And look how thorough this is. Here are some transportation tips. So Singapore has a subway system. You need to get this easy link card and top it up, which you can tap at all the entrances and exits of these subway stations. It also searches the weather. So June is warm and humid. Pack light clothing, sunscreen, and an umbrella. And then it also has payments. Credit cards are widely accepted, but have some cash handy. Tipping is not customary. Day 1, arrive at the airport. First, purchase a 4G SIM card or pocket Wi-Fi. Exchange some currency and buy an EasyLink card, approximately 12 Singaporean dollars with $7 of stored value. Look how thorough this is. And then you would take a taxi or public transport to the hotel, which would cost roughly 20 to 30 Singapore dollars. And then the first attraction is this. Here are some key highlights, and visiting time approximately 2 to 3 hours, and then dinner at Jumbo Seafood at Jewel, recommended dishes, reservation time, price range, and reservation is highly recommended. Call this phone number. Again, just super thorough and detailed. And then day 2, we are going to Sentosa Island, so it gives us information on how to get there via public transport, plus alternative options. So it looks like we are visiting Sea Aquarium. Here are some key highlights, visiting time, opening hours, and then it looks like we can just walk across the beach and then go for lunch there. So lunch will be at this place. Here are some recommended dishes, price range, location. And then here for entertainment, we have this show. And then we have dinner here. Very nice. And then here is day 3. I'm just gonna scroll through this a bit faster in the interest of time. It shows you the public transport information on how to get there. Here's another attraction, and then we have lunch here, and then we have this Tiger Brewery tour, and then Thursday we have Gardens by the Bay, so here's how you would get there. Here are the key attractions, and then we have lunch over here, and then we have this Art Science Museum, another attraction, and then so on and so forth. So I'm just gonna keep scrolling down. Here is Chinatown, and here is day 6, etc., etc. Here's Little India, and then final dinner at the airport, optional, and then here it gives us information on transportation in Singapore. You can either take the MRT or buses or taxis, and then here is a map of the MRT. So there you have it. Here is a very comprehensive, visually appealing itinerary of Singapore for whatever day you want to visit, for whatever specifications you want. And it made this in a matter of minutes. Heck, this is more thorough and detailed, and the report looks even nicer than going to a human travel agent. So, I mean, if you're working at a travel agency, I would start to be quite worried about my job if I were you. All right, next, let's try this. I'm going to prompt it to make an interactive taxonomy visualizer for shark species. It says, this will take a bit of time to create since I'll need to research shark taxonomy. Would you like me to proceed with creating this interactive visualization? So strangely, some of the time it just asks me a follow-up question, and I do need to say yes, please, for it to proceed. But anyways, it goes ahead and proceeds with doing a ton of parallel searches. So it's deploying multiple AI agents to search the web for shark taxonomy, and then afterwards, it's using this web page tool to create the web page. And that's pretty much it. So we can view the visualization over here. Okay, so let's just expand all these classes. We have all these super orders, and then let's expand each one. Very interesting. And then if we expand this and expand the genus, here is the great white shark. And again, look how detailed this is. I did not specify that it had to also search up the size, habitat lifespan, weight, diet, status, and interesting facts, but it just decided to do so anyways. And then here are mako sharks. Very nice. And then here's another family of sharks. And here you go. Here's the information. And then we have ground sharks, whale sharks. Let's look at that. So here's the whale shark. Status is endangered, unfortunately. And then here's all the information. Oh, and here are hammerhead sharks, which look pretty cool. Unfortunately, this is critically endangered. Holy smokes. Anyways, again, just from a really short prompt, you can see it was able to compile this really technical and interactive site that documents this taxonomy of sharks. How insane is that? All right, next, let's try this. I have a 16 by 14 feet bedroom. Give me 3 designs on how to arrange furniture. Also give me a list of the furniture I should buy with links. Use p5.js or 3.js. So p5 is a nice JavaScript library which can create animations, and then 3.js is another library which can create 3D models. So I put or here so it doesn't have to use both of them. It can choose either one, and then map the furniture on a floor plan of my room so I know where to place the furniture. Let's click generate and see what that gives us. Here you can see it's using this parallel search to deploy a ton of agents to search for appropriate furniture for my room simultaneously. It's also using this product search feature to find more information about all these products, and then it's using Python code to visualize the furniture arrangements. However, it ran into an error, so it did not execute successfully. Here it says, let me try a different approach by creating a simpler version. And so that works. So it's going to compile the furniture recommendations for each layout now. And then here is everything. So it gave me 2 reports. Here is the visualization, and then here is the shopping list. So let's open the visualization first. Very nice. So here we have a conventional storage layout. I believe this is the door. And then for each one, like here's the queen size bed. And if I click on this, it actually takes me to the Amazon site. And then here's a large dresser, here's a wardrobe cabinet, and you can also see the shopping list on the right column over here. And then next we have a multifunctional office setup. So again, if we hover over each component, we can see what that piece of furniture is. And then here's a minimalist open space setup, which looks like this. And then here's the shopping list. All right, so here's a separate website. Here are the 3 tabs listing the 3 different designs. So for conventional, here are all the items I should buy with the price and the dimensions. Plus, if I click on view product, it indeed takes me to a working Amazon link. So here's all the furniture that I should buy. So with essential items, that would cost $3.90, and then with optional items, that would cost $4.93. And then we also have this design comparison. Oh my gosh, this is just so comprehensive. But before we look at this table, let me actually scroll back up and then look at multifunctional. So multifunctional would look like this. Here are the furniture items I should buy, and then here is minimalist. All right, so scrolling down, here's the design comparison, plus it even gives me tips for my bedroom. Very nice. The amount of time and effort I need to put in to plan out the furniture arrangement for my bedroom and search for the right furniture online would be huge. Like, it would take me at least a few days to plan everything. And plus, I will definitely not put in the effort and compile everything into a nice website like this. So I hope you can see how Genspark could be so useful for planning and shopping as well. Okay, so that sums up my demos for this Genspark Superagent tool. Unlike Manus, which is closed beta, you can actually use this right now. In fact, let me go over the pricing structure. So they do have a free plan where you get 200 credits per day, and this refreshes every 24 hours. And yes, this is enough to run most of the prompts that I've shown you on this demo. So the amount of credits that's used depends on what it has to do for the prompt, right? So if it's just searching the web and outputting text, then it would use fewer credits. But if you need to get it to generate images or videos or make a phone call, then it's going to use up more credits. So for that, you would probably have to move over to the Plus plan. And note that, yes, this does include all the other image generators and video generators, but that's not really the point and not really why I'm featuring this Genspark tool. It's the super agent function that is really impressive to me. And also note that for 200 credits a day, that would probably be enough to run 1 to 3 prompts per day using the super agent function based on the complexity. And that's pretty much it. I hope from the demos I've shown you, you can see how mind-blowing and useful this tool is. This is the most impressive AI agent I've seen so far in terms of gathering data and synthesizing information. Anyways, I'll link to their main site in the description below for you to check out further. Let me know in the comments what you think of this. Also, welcome to suggest any other interesting or challenging prompts that I can use in my future tests. And if you've had a chance to use Genspark, also let me know in the comments what interesting or useful or mind-blowing examples you were able to get it to do. As always, I will be on the lookout for the top AI news and tools to share with you. So if you enjoyed this video, remember to like, share, subscribe, and stay tuned for more content. Also, there's just so much happening in the world of AI every week. I can't possibly cover everything on my YouTube channel. So to really stay up to date with all that's going on in AI, be sure to subscribe to my free weekly newsletter. The link to that will be in the description below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.